Space is infamously hazardous and challenging to prepare for. It truly is rocket science, as Richard Branson famously noted about his Virgin Galactic product. Sadly, throughout the illustration's history of space travel, humankind's quest to discover the world beyond Earth and comprehend the cosmos has resulted in a few mishaps. Could these mishaps have been prevented? Welcome back to Salty Space. Let's take a look at some of the worst space disasters, starting with number 1, the 2003 Columbia space disaster. The Columbia Space Shuttle crashed upon re-entry on February 1st, returning to Earth on its 28th mission, killing all 7 people aboard. The tragedy directly contributed to NASA's decision to retire its space shuttle fleet in 2011 and the agency's recent lack of genuinely audacious missions. NASA later started developing Project Artemis as a replacement. According to an investigation, the issue began 16 days earlier, during Columbia's takeoff from Earth. During the launch, a tiny fragment of insulating foam came loose from a fuel tank and punctured a small hole in the shuttle's left wing. Since the foam had detached without incident during earlier shuttle missions, NASA officials assumed there wasn't a concern. Due to the atmospheric gases leaking into the shuttle during its quick re-entry, the minor hole in the wing caused depressurization and, ultimately, the vehicle breaking up. Number 2, the 1986 Challenger mission crash. The Space Shuttle Challenger's 10th mission ended tragically. Krista Olive, a high school teacher chosen for NASA's new Teacher in Space program, was one of the 7 astronauts on the shuttle when it disintegrated 73 seconds after taking off from Cape Canaveral. It then plunged from about 15,000 feet into the Atlantic Ocean. A study into the disaster revealed that NASA was aware that the cold temperatures could harm the rubber O-rings used in the spacecraft's rocket booster separation and fuel tank prevention systems, preventing them from sealing. Bob Eberling, an engineer who worked on the Challenger space shuttle, has made a valiant effort to warn that the launch should be delayed because there was insufficient information on how the rubber O-rings would withstand the temperatures colder than 54 degrees Fahrenheit or 12 degrees Celsius. His plea, unfortunately, failed to be heard. Eberling is said to have gone home and told his wife that the Challenger shuttle would explode after one particularly unpleasant meeting with NASA officials. Despite these cautions, NASA chose to proceed with the launch, which sparked a backlash and forced NASA to halt the space shuttle program temporarily. Number 3, the Soyuz 1-1 disaster and its legacy. 3 individuals perished in space, and this catastrophe was to blame. The Soviet Union was anxious to advance its space program and surpass its American rivals after the Apollo mission's successful moon landing. They undoubtedly left their mark by launching Salyut 1, the first space station in history, in April 1971. 3 cosmonauts launched on the Soyuz 1-1 rocket 2 months later, docked at the Salyut 1, and spent 3 weeks conducting scientific research there, making them heroes of their home country of Russia. Before the return flight on June 30th, everything appeared to be going according to plan. The spacecraft successfully landed after a routine re-entry. However, no 3 cosmonauts responded when ground personnel opened the door. Soyuz 1-1 autonomously landed. A malfunctioning air vent that had opened during the descent caused the cabin to depressurize, and since none of the cosmonauts wore spacesuits, they ran out of air quickly and most likely died of suffocation about 30 minutes before landing. Number 4, the avoidable tragedy of Soyuz 1. One of the genuinely sad characters of the space race between the United States and Russia back in the 1950s is Vladimir Komarov. The Soyuz 1 spacecraft's parachute system malfunctioned during the fall back to Earth, sending Vladimir Komarov, the only crew member, crashing to the Earth in a ball of flames. The fact that Komarov was aware that the mission was in jeopardy is what makes this narrative so terrible. He screamed and cursed at his superiors in his last recorded broadcast from the craft, claiming that they had killed him. Yuri Gagarin, a Soviet space hero, and other technicians examined the spacecraft alongside Komarov and discovered 203 structural issues. The spaceflight has mainly a publicity ploy to mark the 50th anniversary of the Communist Revolution. It could not be postponed. Number 5. The Apollo 1 design flaws led to disaster. Apollo was almost cancelled before it even began. Unfortunately, the crew and technicians of Apollo 1 identified several problems before the fire overtook the mission's crew compartment, killing 3 astronauts on board in yet another instance of putting racing for glory ahead of safety. NASA dubbed the mission Apollo 1, even though the accident occurred during a mock launch at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Astronauts Virgil Gus Grissom, Edward White, and Roger Chaffee perished from asphyxiation after a stray spark caused a fire in the Apollo 204 module's habitat of pure oxygen. The hatch's door's flaws rendered it difficult and slow to open, making it impossible to rescue the astronauts in time. At various points during the preparation process, the crew and several engineers voiced their concerns about the problems with the Apollo 1 spacecraft, as seems to be the case with an unlucky number of spaceflights. Despite this, further safety precautions were dropped in favor of a shorter launch window due to time constraints and the desire to be seen as a trailblazing nation. Number 6. The Netherlands Catastrophe in 1960. On October 24, 1960, a Soviet R-16 rocket exploded on the launch pad of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in one of the deadliest space catastrophes ever. At least 72 crucial military and technical professionals were destroyed when the rocket unintentionally exploded. The commander of Russia's rocket program, Chief Marshal Mitrofan Ivanovich Nedelin, died on the launch pad. Meanwhile, a smoke break saved Mikhail Yangel, the creator of the R-16. Investigations afterwards revealed that Nedelin had his team under pressure to time the launch to coincide with the anniversary of the Russian Revolution, which was undoubtedly a mistake. The Soviet government did not acknowledge that Nedelin tragedy until 1989 because Nikita Khrushchev, the Russian premier at the time, insisted it was kept a secret. Number 7. The X-15 Flight 191. The North American X-15 experimental aircraft, a hypersonic rocket-powered aircraft used by the US Air Force and NASA for high-altitude research, conducted X-15 Flight 191, also known as X-15 Flight 36597, as a test flight. Michael J. Adams undocked his X-15 on November 15, 1967, 45,000 feet over the state of Nevada from the wing of its mothership. The airplane reached a high altitude of 266,000 feet despite some electrical issues. Adams' task was to carry out a pre-arranged wing-rocking maneuver so the ship's camera could survey the horizon. Adams was midway through the maneuver when the X-15 started shaking erratically, requiring him to stop and concentrate on his descent. The aircraft began a Mach 5 spin at 230,000 feet due to a rapidly increasing dynamic force. At 65,000 feet, the aircraft was destroyed by strong muscles, killing Adams. Posthumously, he received astronaut wings from the US Air Force. And number 8, the Virgin Galactic Spaceship Two. On October 31, 2014, a Spaceship Two experimental spaceflight test flight aircraft operated by Virgin Galactic, the VSS Enterprise, experienced a catastrophic in-flight breakdown during a test flight and crashed in the Mojave Desert close to Cantil in California. Michael Alsbury, the co-pilot, died whilst Peter Seibold, the pilot, suffered significant injuries. Later, the National Transportation Safety Board concluded that Alsbury's premature release of the air brake device utilized for atmospheric re-entry caused the breakup. According to the NTSB, other significant contributing reasons to the disaster were insufficient design safeguards, inadequate pilot training, and a lack of strict regulation by the Federal Aviation Administration. Following the mishap, Virgin Galactic CEO George T. Whiteside stated, quote, "Space is hard and today was a challenging day. Thankfully, these terrible occurrences have resulted in safer space travel in the future. Significant improvements in humanity's safety have resulted from animal space travel. Animals traveling to space include fruit flies, mice, hamsters, guinea pigs, rabbits, cats, dogs, frogs, goldfish, and even monkeys." But that is all for today, so don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and turn the post notification on. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the next video.